Hello.
Hey, my friend, how are
Can
you?
you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me? Hello,
Yeah,
hello?
we've got that excellent time delay thing.
Again?
Hmm. It's quite fun. It's like monkey magic where the lips don't quite sync with the.
Do you want to try again? Do you want me to log out and log in again?
No, it's better now.
Okay.
It's settled down. Hello to Dan Cohen,
Hello, my
the full
friend. How are
court
you?
press.
Hi, good. It's so good to chat with you. I adore speaking with you. You're one of my favorite people on the planet. It's good to be connected. I even have a
Blushing, sweating actually.
post-lunch cup of coffee in your honor, so cheers.
Oh, it's water for me, but with berries in. I'm not doing well at this left-right thing. Right is left, left is right.
That is so
Oh.
healthy of you. I'm so excited for you.
You don't want to
You
see me on afternoon coffee. I'm like a lunatic.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Although I feel like you might have seen me on wine. Well, we had like
I've seen you on afternoon wine. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's a good thing.
I
It's it's
become
a
even more opinionated.
it's a healthy thing. It's a very healthy thing. So
So,
are we
Dan,
talking to the world yet, or are we still backstage?
we are not talking to the world yet because what we do is we do a live broadcast to my coffee group, which has one member in it, which is
Hello, one
me,
member. Oh, just you.
which is
Hi.
me,
Okay.
waving. And then we premiere it in a couple of weeks. Like I have a
Brilliant.
few lined up and they're all scheduled to go out on Tuesday afternoons at 2 o'clock our time. Also, I managed to do some of them completely out sync. So tomorrow we've got number 7 showing when I've already showed number 8. Whatever, just go with the
Okay.
flow. Fine. I accidentally did one of them completely live, and by the time I realized it was too late, so I just went with it. It's fine.
Oh, that's cool. Actually, it just shows you're human, and I think you're you're trying to lead all this mentoring work that you're doing. You're trying to lead with humility, and I think when you try to lead with humility, it's okay to make mistakes and show people you're human. I think it's an
Absolutely.
important part of the process. It's important to show people that you're not infallible.
Infallible is part of my, yes, I am not infallible. I think it's part of my brand.
I'm very fallible. If that's
I'm
the
flawed.
opposite, flawed. It's even better. Yes, it's even better.
And that brand matrix that you sent me is actually up on my pinboard from last time we
Oh,
spoke.
good, good. It was a very important tool for me. It's a
Mm.
very it's a very good tool.
So today, first of all, you very kindly helped me out the other week when I was doing these 6 days of build up to launching my thing that I really didn't want to do by myself. So you saved me. Each day I had someone come on and save me until like at the end I'm like, right, I've got this. I can do this by myself.
Good.
Um, and then for anyone that didn't see that, I feel like you need to introduce yourself again.
Sure. My
So
name
go
is Dan
ahead.
Cohen. Sure. My name is Dan Cohen. I'm the founder of Full Court Press Communications. It's fcpcommunications.com. We're based in Oakland, California, in the Bay Area. The business has been running almost 20 years, helping our clients use communications mostly to make social change. So I'd say at least half, if not more, of our clients are nonprofits, very large ones, foundations, and even businesses who want to use the communications tools at their disposal to try to make the world better in some way, whether it's to make public policy change or to have deeper engagement in the community. And then the other half are just people trying to get their name into the news or keep it out of it, which is fine. But about 3 years ago, myself and my family made Aliyah here to Israel, which is how I know you. We live down the street from each other, waving virtually down the street. And until March, I was going back and forth about every 6 weeks to sit with my team in Oakland for a week.
Mm.
But Corona has put a crimp into that. And so that's who I am. I am a recovering political consultant. I am a recovering lawyer, and I'm a recovering corporate PR guy. So I've had a chance to live multiple lives and now bring all that to bear for our clients. So I've seen a lot, and then everything we've seen we can draw on and then give those services to our clients.
And this service that you provide, I feel like you were doing it long before it became trendy. It's now become very, very important for businesses to have a social cause that they're attached to.
Yeah, yeah. I got lucky. I mean, we had a confluence of really 3 important things happen. I mean, speaking of your goal to mentor, I was a mentee to a very important woman who helped really crystallize the thinking. I was 3 years into the business, and the business was flailing. And I met a really talented, important woman in our field who was the chief of staff to the originator of this this movement of using kind of corporate public relations tools, but to serve the nonprofit and philanthropy sector. That was started in the late 60s. She was running that firm for a while. And I met her after she left that firm and was getting ready to start her own. She then became a huge mentor for me, including making some key introductions that really put us into business. So I'm grateful to her. In addition, not long after our first daughter was born, and if I talked about this on the other broadcast, I apologize. It was really put up or shut up time. So being in business 3 years, most of our clients, we were subcontractor. So we weren't actually the group that somebody hired. We were the group in California that was doing the work for people that had been hired in New York or California. Because you can imagine 2005, California was just a very different place, especially without all the internet tools we have today. It was hard for firms in New York and Washington to service California. So we were more than happy to be their California voice. But at some point, you have to be willing to step to the front of the line. So those couple of factors combined with the idea that maybe there was some way to follow my passion, which was to try to use these tools for better, to make the world better. Kind of all these three things came together, and it's been a real journey ever since. But we've learned kind of how to service this sector. We've learned what is reasonable to expect and what is not. And my mentor also told me, and we've tried to live this, which is that the folks who do what we do need to be hyper generous, radically generous, because the other side, the folks who aren't trying to make social change, will always have more money and more resources. And it's our job to not just do the work, but to train people to do the work and to leave people behind. Even if we worked with a client for a year, their staff and team will be there a lot longer. So the goal is to make sure that that team is capable, once we walk out the door, of doing really powerful and impactful work.
Wow, so you're like Nanny McPhee.
Yes, we are exactly like Nanny McPhee without the wart. Although I think, didn't she have like beard hair in the movie?
Yeah, and a big tooth. But so the training that you're giving them, what does that look like?
Well, a lot of it is just getting them through a couple of cycles of the work. So, for example, they may come to us to use to launch and to make an announcement. They're launching a new product, they're launching a new initiative to try to save a lot of the work we do is around land conservation. So there's a giant plot of land, and they're trying to figure out how to promote saving that. So the first time through, maybe we'll do the whole strategic plan. We'll do all of the writing. We'll do all the media outreach. We'll get them trained up to talk to the media. We'll do all the social media. And we'll have a full package, and we'll deliver that to them. Over time, what we'd hope is to begin to build up that capacity within the staff so that they can do pieces of that themselves.
So you say generally people are coming to you because they genuinely have a cause that they want to connect with, or people are coming to you and saying, I know it's really important, we need to have a cause, what cause should we have? Or is it both?
Oh, it's definitely the former. By the time people get to us, they have a sense of maybe what their big, hairy, audacious goal is. Their BHAG. It's a corporate term, but it's their BHAG.
Write that down.
Put it on the board. But it's called a big, hairy, audacious goal. So they may have a goal to save the whales in the North Pacific, or they may have a goal to conserve this piece of land somewhere between Fresno and Modesto, California, or they may have a goal of figuring out how to have their community be a part of this national dialogue on racial justice, right? That could be their goal, their big, hairy, audacious goal. What we try to do is to work with them to create SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound, to make those goals easier to digest, chunk it down into pieces, and then to help them engage. So it could be making announcements about new policy initiatives or new programs that they're running, or new philanthropy that they're offering to the community, or announcing perhaps a new coalition of groups coming together to accomplish something. So we try to break down those big, hairy, audacious goals into smaller, smarter goals, and then start working against that moving forward.
But where does your hand holding, where does that end? You're not going to sit there and write posts for people. So
we absolutely do. We absolutely
do?
Yeah.
You personally?
I have written many social media posts in my life.
Okay.
We provide that as a service. what we will do is oftentimes when we help to roll out information, we will not only write a press release and not only write the talking points and not only write the tough questions and answers, but we'll write a month's worth of social media content. And we'll write 5 or 6 social media posts that allies or partners can clip right out of an email and post on their social media.
Amazing. That's amazing. So that's
call that a social media
hand-holding.
Absolutely. And that's sometimes that's what our clients are asking for. Other times they're just asking for, like, for example, one of our clients right now just has engaged us to be oh my God, I just need an extra brain. Can we just call you if we have a question or if we feel like something doesn't feel right? Right. So
that sounds good.
Because we have staff at every level. So, I mean, I've been doing this work for about 30 years and we have people on our team who are, I operate at sort of a strategic level, and then we have people on our team who operate kind of at the bridge level between the strategies and the tactics. And then we have people who are tactical implementers. So we can really serve our clients kind of anywhere they need us to be served. So a tactical thing could be pick up the phone and call 40 reporters. That's a very tactical thing. A strategic thing is, what are we going to say to the reporter? What do we want them to write about? Or what do we ask the podcaster? How do we find the right podcaster? How do we make sure that the podcaster talks about what we want to talk about? How do we make sure that once it runs, that we're promoting it? So there's the strategic umbrella, and then there's the tactical implementation. And we get a chance to do all of it, which is really kind of a treat.
I want an extra brain.
Well, there's a lot of ways to do it. Maybe some of your mentees will eventually become part of a larger enterprise. We had a very friendly competitor, and I call them friendly competitors because we all learn from each other and we hand off work between each other. But they were much more built as a collective, right? So they were smart, senior, strategic people who all aligned on projects, and sort of sometimes different people brought in the work, but they all sort of shared on the work. And then they weren't as stratified perhaps as we are, but they were a way to have an extra hand or an extra brain on a project because they were this sort of collective. And it's an interesting business model. It's worth investigating if you really think you need to have an extra set of hands or an extra brain to be able to fulfill on projects. So if it gets beyond your scope, so for example, if somebody comes to you for their visual work, which I think is probably your superpower, but they also need some writing. Maybe you could find another Sarah who's a creative writer or has that kind of writing skill, or a writing skill targeted at that industry. And the two of you could work together and put a package together to then be able to offer to that client. Because again, the goal is you don't want the client to go anywhere else. Right? Yeah. You want the client to come to you. I'm sorry. Not you. I, Dan Cohen, would prefer the client come to me and say, I have pain, make it go away. And my job is to say, yep, no problem. And to figure out on the back end what it is we need to deliver and who is on our team to do that. And most of the time, it's the people on our team. For the longest time, we didn't have creative services inside of our company, right? So anything that involves graphic design, creating GIFs, creating movies, all of that stuff was external. We got really lucky in that a year and a half ago, we invested in a communications fellow, which was our opportunity to welcome people who perhaps weren't traditional candidates to join a firm like ours, whether it was background, demographics, experience, or their superpower, but they weren't really necessarily the kind of folks that would get in the front door. And we wanted to create other ways to get into the business. We came across a lovely, talented person, and she has a very different set of skills. She's very visual. Right? And for a firm that was all about words, to have that visual capability in-house has revolutionized what we can offer our clients. So we have now brought her in full time. She's now a member of our team. We're hopefully going to announce another fellow opportunity coming soon. But man, once you have that expanded scope to offer clients, you can really help them solve their problems in new ways.
Yeah, so you can say to them, you don't need to look elsewhere. Like, we've got you here. Whatever you need, more or less, we can do it for you.
So, as crazy as this sounds, we just placed a full-page ad in the newspaper yesterday on Sunday. In the past, we never did advertising. We certainly didn't design the advertising. We certainly weren't working with the clients on how to make it look and feel like everything else they do. But once you have that capability in-house, it opens up so many other services that you can provide to your clients. Sometimes they're lucrative, but sometimes it's also just like solving a problem that they have. They had an idea, they wanted to do this newspaper ad, they had a little bit of budget to do it. They were very focused on a newspaper ad, which maybe wouldn't have been something we would suggest to do with the money, but for them it was important. It reached their target audience, which we've had lots of conversations about the importance of your target audience. And we created the ad and we placed it, and it looks beautiful. And it ran in the Sunday paper in California. So sometimes, when you have people who have different sets of skills, it opens up the ability to do other things.
Can you just say Bay Area again?
Bay Area. How do you
That's
say
not
it?
how you say it.
Bay Area?
Yeah, it's like one word.
Bay Area. That's fair.
I love that.
I don't know. Am I
getting
blushing? Like, that's crazy.
So you mentioned at the beginning that you also do some kind of like reputation management. Tell me about that.
Well, I think that, this is a weird time. Every day it seems like somebody's life is being destroyed in social media. And
the counsel culture.
Yeah. And so what I wouldn't say we do a lot of is helping an individual who gets into that process. What I will say is we do help companies, nonprofits, businesses who find themselves kind of in the target or in the target adjacent area of some of this noise. And sometimes,
so like someone like J.K. Rowling, would she like fit the bill?
We'd love to work for J.K. Rowling. She said something stupid, but we'd love to work for her. Partly because I think that every client who says something stupid, it's an opportunity to give them a chance to learn, which I think people don't really want to give people a chance to do, but it's a chance to learn. It's a chance, and especially somebody high profile does something like that, it's a chance to have a dialogue, and that person can actually lead a dialogue. And those are really important opportunities you can't waste, especially in this noisy time. So yes, she said something stupid. Yes, could we have helped her? Maybe. But there's also the challenge of, would we have helped her? And it would have been a conversation that we had internally. I don't know that we would help everybody.
Right.
That's also part of our brand is we're quite a progressive organization. Our politics tend to be left of center. So if a former member of the current presidential administration came to us, we probably couldn't help her. But, depends. But my hunch is we probably wouldn't help her just because that's not sort of consistent with the brand that we're working on.
Right.
But if an affordable housing developer came to us and they were in a struggle, even if they'd done something stupid, we'd probably figure out a way to work with them, because affordable housing developers really do important work. And so the idea would be, can we work with them? Whatever the mess up was, could we work with them to educate them, to convene a public conversation, to help the organization grow and thrive? And I think that, and have a long-term benefit for the community. That would be ideal. But
so you're talking about clearing up people's mess. I'm assuming sometimes it's not actually a mess that they've caused.
Yeah, sometimes it's an employee does something challenging. That happens a lot. And what you're trying to do is figure out how to respect what the employee did, either as an individual or hopefully not as in their official role, but also not lose sight of the years you've spent building up the brand of your business. And that happens a lot.
And the topic of our conversation today was going to be survival versus thriving. So I meant to ask, what did you have in mind there?
Well, actually, you'd have to look back at when we first emailed. But I have a feeling it was earlier in the Corona time than perhaps it is now. And at the time, a lot of what was on my mind was the real difference. And certainly was before any of the BLM stuff happened. And I just want to say, first and foremost, our firm believes Black Lives Matter. Our firm believes that it's important right now in America to be having a conversation around racial and social justice, and we're glad it's happening. And we're offering our support to anybody who's making that happen. But at the time when we first started emailing, we were really in this sort of survival mode, right? The world was shutting down.
Yeah.
And I think what was on my mind at the time was, okay, we have a choice of how we think about this moment in time, right? We can either think about it in terms of, okay, I'm just got to survive it, just got to get through, or is it a chance to really fundamentally rethink how we work, the work we do, and how we provide services to people? I don't know how you thought about it, but once we got over the shock, right? I actually think as an organization, instead of just trying to survive, I actually think in a lot of ways we're thriving, right? I have folks who are not much happier, but happier, I think, to be working at home. We were never a work remote culture. We were definitely we have an office. It's like a clubhouse. Everybody comes together. The sort of bouncing of ideas between minds is an important part of our workday. But we've had to rethink that. I think definitely from my perspective, instead of just surviving in this environment, we're thriving because our customers are more than happy now to see us on video. Whereas I think
Right.
before there wasn't a culture of let's do this meeting virtually or let's do this on video as opposed to on phone. And I think personally it's made it easier for me to live 10,000 miles from most of our clients because we've been able to service them in new and interesting ways.
Do you see yourself traveling less when everything opens up?
I think it's just going to depend on the business. And what matters most when I travel is the networking. And until they figure out how to substitute, how to really create networking environments over Zoom, it's going to be hard. I do see myself traveling. Yeah, I do see myself traveling a little less, but maybe I'll stay for longer. But I think everything's up in the air at this point. I'm blessed that our team is so amazing on the ground that a lot of times our clients don't miss me. And that's like the ideal, that's the ideal situation. My clients are more than happy to have us, have me very far away because our team on the ground is so capable.
Right. Yeah, I think, for something like my business, it's very difficult to thrive when you can't do the face-to-face work.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess the only thing that changed was looking at ways in the future that I can create, I don't like the phrase, passive income. Because both me and my husband, we sell our time.
Yeah.
And if I can't be, in the same space as my clients, that's what I spent my time thinking about. And I did go through survival mode. Absolutely. I think we went through those, there's that, what's her name? Kubler-Ross, like the stages of grief.
Oh, sure.
5-6 stages of grief. We went through them. We didn't go through them in order. We didn't go through them once. We went through them 5 times. But for sure, like I was angry. I was in denial. I was God knows what. But then I did get this incredible burst of creativity, and how it came, and I hope it stays. And put my thinking cap on and just thought, okay, and it's not, okay, I'm going to do photo shoots through Zoom calls or whatever. Like, that's just for fun. That's just like a creative outlet. It's more like, I can't have it all moving forward. I can't have it all depend on me being there. There has to be some other income stream. So, yeah.
I admire your journey. And I really want to say that twice. I admire your journey. You've done something that every person who runs a professional services firm dreams about at night, which is to make money while you sleep. Right. And to basically figure out how to sell something as opposed to selling time. And everybody talks about it. But in the last 6 weeks, you've effing done it. And I actually admire that. I know you've launched, just in the last week or two, you've launched a mentoring package and an Instagram package. Like, you've managed to, and don't take this the wrong way, you've managed to basically productize your knowledge and figure out how to sell it. And I think that is such a powerful tool for a small office kind of environment. And it's something that I've thought about for years, but haven't been able to do. So I admire you quite a bit for having the ability and the courage and the creativity to package it up, figure out how you can make it marketable, and get out there and sell it. So, I mean, that is the epitome of surviving versus thriving, right? Surviving would have been, oh my God, I'll get on a plane to London, I'll wait 2 weeks, and then I'll start doing photo shoots outside, right? That's surviving. Thriving is, I'm going to reimagine my whole business, and I'm going to reimagine what I do and how I sell it, and how to repackage what I know. And so, like, kudos to you. And that, I mean, it takes huge courage to do that. So just way to go.
I mean, it's funny. It threw me for a loop because I only started doing the flying to London thing in 2018. So it was pretty new and exciting and sexy. It was like, I was so into it. It's like, I've flight to London 4 times. And then I came out with my website with all my travel schedule. It still makes me laugh. My travel schedule for 2020 is still up, and it will stay up. I'm like, where am I meant to be this month? Oh, next month I'm in Ireland. Cool. Excellent.
Well, man plans and God laughs. And never was that more true than the last 100 days. I also think, look, I mean, there's a lot of fundamental changes that have taken place in how we interact and how we treat each other, and what is expected from both a client service standpoint and even a product standpoint, right? The barrier to entry is a lot lower to be able to offer your own training tools. And the barrier to entry to sort of get new clients is actually higher, right? Because
Yeah.
I think in this time, as we think about even some of the smaller projects we've been selling lately, everybody's thinking twice about, all right, is this the right investment? Am I going to get return on my investment?
Yes.
And so it's taking longer. Decisions are taking longer. Buying
Yep.
decisions are taking longer. So
Absolutely. And I wrote a post about this yesterday and I think people misunderstood as usual. I feel like I didn't say this clear enough. I didn't say that clear enough. But no, like people will always misunderstand or misinterpret, or they'll read it from where they're coming from and not from where you're coming from. But
yeah.
what I was saying is that the general advice that I have heard over the last 13 years of doing business has been like, charge your worth and don't give discounts, and that whole, build it and they'll come. We realize now that that's actually not true, and that if they don't bite, you have to find out what their objections are and then eliminate them. Okay. And then you have what's happening now. So people's objections are, I don't have the money. I don't have the money to be spending on this. Like, this is something I'd really love to do, but right now I can't spend the money. I'm waiting for my client to pay me, or da, 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 da. That's totally legitimate. And I don't feel comfortable pushing someone and hounding them, close the sale on the discovery call. No. Discovery call to see if we're a good fit. And then maybe you need to go over and you need to think about it more and you need to go back and do your numbers.
Yep.
That I have to give people the space to do that. I have anyway, regardless of, the times that we're living in. But I said to myself, like, if this is the new normal for a while, of people being extra cautious before they buy anything and doing a lot more research, I need to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
So we need to have a package that's kind of like what does someone call it? Corona recovery package or something like that. It's quite funny. I'm not calling it that, but it's like, I need to tweak my website a bit. I need to replace that picture on LinkedIn where I've got a photo from 8 years ago from my daughter's bat mitzvah and da-da-da. But I can't be going for the full branding package now. I need something in between to get me going.
Yep.
So I'm going to be offering that.
I think that makes sense. And look, there are some people who, as much as we want to talk about thriving in this moment, that was a personal journey for you. And it was a personal journey for me. And there are people who, rightfully so, may not be on the other side of the survival versus thriving journey, whether it's personal or financial or mental. I mean, there may be a reason that someone is not they haven't switched the switch in their brain to a thrive mode yet. And you got to meet those folks where they are. And so if they're still in survival mode, helping them with a Corona recovery package, which I actually think the wording is fine, because I think if you own a restaurant, you're surviving, you're not thriving, right?
Have you looked at the initials of that? CRP?
No, that's very funny. Yeah. We'll put a little asterisk in between the Corona CR-P, Corona recovery package.
Okay.
But if you're a restaurant, you still have to get the word out. You still have to communicate with customers. It's more important because you have to tell them, here's our takeout drive up menu only. Here are the hours. Here are the new hours we're open. So you still have to communicate. I think for people who do what you and I do, it's even more important now because the noise is much louder, and reaching out and finding your target audience is much harder. And whether you approach it from a survival mentality or thriving mentality, you still have to do the work. Because you know what happens if you don't do the work. We're all very clear about what happens if you don't do the work, right? So, so it's up to us, and it's up to us to serve our clients, to help them. And sometimes those are difficult conversations for our clients to have with their customers or with their communities. But you got to have them, and you got to be out there.
Yeah, and it's funny because I reached out to a few people that had calls with me. And they've kind of said, I'm waiting, we'll see, whatever. Just to say, don't be uncomfortable about just being open and honest about what's going on in your mind right now. I think I've read people's minds and figured it out anyway, but there's nothing to be embarrassed about to just say, I'm weighing this up and I want to make sure that I get the biggest bang for my buck.
For sure. I mean, look, we have mutual friends that are in the sort of sales business. They're sales experts, right? And the easiest way to get out of a sales conversation is to say, I don't have the money, right? Because what are you going to do? Object to that?
Right.
A smart, savvy, experienced communicator will not hear that as a dead end. He or she will hear that as an opportunity, right? It's exactly what you talked about, right? It's not, I don't have the money. It's, I can't put enough value on spending this money on this product right now.
Yeah,
Right?
I can't justify this right
I
now.
can't justify it. Well, so then that's not a conversation ender. That's a conversation starter, if only for fact finding, but maybe even for sales. Right? It's a conversation. Okay, well, you don't have money to pay for this, but what problem were you trying to solve? How can I help you solve that problem that maybe a full-blown branding or photography package wouldn't solve, or a website package wouldn't solve? But why don't we do some thinking about a low-cost Insta strategy that's going to at least keep you visible in the short term while you're waiting to do all this other stuff? And on Insta, the barrier's lower. And again, going back to everything that's in your Insta guide that I know you're marketing, which is, I'm sure, a great tool, but everything that's in there about like using this moment now to say, okay, well, don't use professional communications, but make sure if you're going to do communications yourself, or if you're going to have your 12-year-old son take photos of you, at least make sure he is arranging them the right way, or it's the right environment, or has the right vibe, so that what you're putting out on Insta is what you need to be putting out to the world to stay top of mind.
Absolutely.
I think about this a lot. I've seen it a lot in the food space, where the restaurants are really, they can't really afford to do marketing. So, and again, I'm just seeing it from the Bay Area, but it's a lot of food. It's a lot of recipes. It's a lot of, we're in this together. It's a lot of, here's all the food we're donating. They're using the tools. They're somewhere between thriving and surviving.
Right. And I love it. I love the fact that people are showing up more as human beings than ever before. I had emails from companies where I never even thought about who's the face behind this company. I can't remember who it was now. And he was like, here I am broadcasting from my living room and my son is jumping off my back. I love that.
Yeah.
I don't want that to change.
Look, I mean, we've all had to, in a strange way, we've all been in each other's homes. Those of us who are fortunate enough to have these kinds of white collar jobs or jobs that can be done virtually, all of our peers, we've had a chance to get inside their home. Sometimes it's their extra bedroom. Sometimes it's their bedroom. Sometimes it's their kitchen or dining room. But once you've been in someone's home, it's no different than real life, right? So you and I were friends, but man, the first time you and James came over for lunch, like, it changed everything, right? And it's the same way that once I've been...
Why?
No, just because
look,
there's just something about being in someone's home. And I think that even our clients, where I have a chance to look behind one of our clients as she's talking and see that she's she's got a collection of red wines. All of a sudden now we can talk about red wine. Or another client had a picture of a baseball player behind him. So he and I were talking about mutual love of baseball. Another guy had like 6 gold records on his wall. And I was like, how did you get those? He's like, it's a long story. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have another call where you're going to just tell me about the gold records on your wall, because I want to hear about it. I know we're not going to talk now.
Now we need to have a call so you can tell me all about the records.
I will. So, I mean, I think there's a level of, I'm going to use the word intimacy with a small I, but I do think that level of intimacy is also a great way to break through sales barriers, right? Because then you can have a conversation with someone that's way more real once you've been inside their house, right? You can just be like, look, I know what's going on. You know what's going on. Let's talk about a way that we can make this work. And so maybe it's not selling them a full branding package, but maybe it's saying, look, what do you need to get by right now? Or what do you need to sort of turn the corner? Or what do you need to survive the summer? Any of those things are all options. And I don't think it's wrong to ask for the order. I mean, look, that's the other piece, which is when I would, in college, I did telemarketing, which is the worst job in history.
Everyone should do it once in their life.
Everyone should do it. I used to take public transit from suburbs where my college was, outside of Boston, into Harvard Square. And I went into a basement in Harvard Square, and I used to call people and asking them for donations for, believe it or not, liberal and progressive causes. And, they taught us you have to get 3 no's. It's not official until you hear no 3 times. And so what that does is it forces you, if you buy into that theory, and I have, it forces you to get creative on the second and third ask, right? How can I ask this question differently? Or how can I pose something? How can I provide a different solution so that I have a different way of asking? I have an excuse to ask the question differently. And hopefully you don't hear no 3 times, but sometimes you do.
How would that sound if I said no the first time?
So if I called you and I said, look, I'm going to just say that Sarah, we're going to talk about your branding and visual identity business, right?
Okay.
So if I'm you and I'm calling me, I'm saying, we have this great package. You reach out to me on our website. Let me tell you about sort of this full branding package we can do. We'll do your look and feel. We'll redo your website. We'll make sure your social media accounts are all visible. And you're like, are you kidding me? I can't make my rent this month. Why would I do that? And so we would have a conversation then about, okay, well, what does it mean you can't make your rent? What aren't you able to do? And you would say, well, I'm not able to drive revenue. And so we'd have a conversation about, okay, well, what are the drivers of revenue? And for you, you'd say, well, one of our major drivers of revenue is we just can't get enough visibility. And we know if we get in front of 100 people, we're going to have 3 sales. So what we would have a whole conversation of is, okay, how do we get you in front of 100 people? What new ways can we try to get you in front of 100 people? Well, so maybe we would, instead of going for a whole branding package, we'd go right back to that Instagram package where we'd say, okay, how do we create some interesting low-cost Instagram content? How do we get you seen by more people? How do we get influencers to start noticing you and reposting you or thanking you? And then if you said, well, man, even that's like more than we can afford to do. Well, then we would go into full DIY mode and just figure out what are 3 things you could do right away over the next 30 days to start building some momentum so that you could maybe bring us on in 30 days, but maybe you'd hire us for an hour of consulting or 2 hours of consulting.
Right.
Because the key is to remain connected at all costs, to never let that connection go. So maybe if there's a tiny project we can work on, it'll grow and grow as we build a rapport and a relationship. There's a guy named David Maister who wrote a book that's my business Bible called Managing the Professional Services Firm. He also wrote another book called The Trusted Advisor. And that to me is also a great resource. So like at the end of the day, if you're a professional services firm, you want to be a trusted advisor. That's what people are buying. So what I would do is I would figure out how many different ways I have to offer you the opportunity to engage me as an advisor. And then we have the team behind me to get the work done.
Wow. Okay, that's one way of answering no.
But that's how to get to 3 no's. I mean, the goal is not to get to that 3rd no. But sometimes you have to. And sometimes there's just, you're at the point of being de minimis and there's nothing to do.
Yeah, and someone's like, dude, I'm being evicted from my apartment and I'm about to come homeless. You'd be like,
Absolutely. Or sometimes you're just so far off on price. There's nothing you can do about it. And what that says to me is, and this has happened to me, but what it also says to me is that maybe I haven't done my homework. Maybe I haven't properly priced my services. Maybe I should think about, okay, here's an objection I'm getting. Am I really listening to that objection? Or have I offered something that is, not cost effective?
Yeah.
I'm going to step off for just 1 second, turn my fan on because I'm hot. I'll be right back. 30 seconds. You got a van. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Right back.
Okay, we're doing a countdown. 29, 28, 27.
Sorry about that. You can run a commercial.
5 seconds.
You can run a commercial for Sarah's photography.
I was listening to Mike Birbiglia was talking to this comedian. I've forgotten his name now, and they were talking about. I have to find what show it was. He said that he had this idea with another comedian friend to come up with fake sponsors.
Sure, that's amazing.
Sponsored by that little sponge that you get in the post office that allows you to lick the stamps without having to lick them. Sponsored by that sponge. And they were thinking of all different ridiculous objects that were sponsoring their podcast. And then they just went on to claim outrageous sponsors who clearly weren't sponsoring them. I could do that.
Of course you could.
Today. Yeah.
Well, what's the most ridiculous product or service you can think of?
Oh, ridiculous.
The most ridiculous product or service. Either obviously very fake, but
I don't know. You go first.
I was going to say a cat walker. Like our neighborhood is filled with people, professional dog walkers. Like, what would it be like if we tried to sell a cat walking service? And you can imagine the sort of Instagram account of cats being all happy to be outside, their fur nice and matted, not hunched over. It'd be fun. It'd be like Sarah the cat whisperer. This is my Insta.
Ew.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe. But we used to walk our rabbit on a leash.
No.
We did.
Wow. Okay. Touche.
Until she got attacked by a dog, and I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't a good idea.
Yeah, sometimes reality can slam right into our best ideas. And that's also what Corona's done. I mean, Corona, all of our best ideas, we've had to reevaluate them. And all of
Well,
our
yeah,
a lot of our thinking. We've had to,
like vision boards. What happened to everyone's vision boards? How did everyone feel about their vision boards for 2020? It was like, because such a great believer in positive thinking,
Mhm.
but I'm also aware of the fact that things don't always work out the way you plan them. So just because you've put it on your vision board,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean the job is done. And it doesn't mean you're guaranteed of reaching that vision. There are so many other parts that have to come into play.
Yeah.
I think that maybe we've realized that.
I think so. I mean, a friend of mine from Oakland has had a technology company now for 10 years. And it's only in the 9th year that the company has sort of taken off and become a unicorn, right? So now all of a sudden he's the smartest guy in the world, right? Because the company's now successful. He's the same guy he was 10 years ago.
Yes.
And he used to always say to me, and this gets to your vision board, that what's in the way is the way, right? That's just how it is. Like whatever gets in the way is actually, that's the way you have to go about reaching what's on your vision board. So if your vision board had like, this is my dream wedding, or this is my dream business opportunity, this is the warehouse I'm going to get when we start moving enough product, right? All the Corona did was force you to sort of take a bend around a corner and go at it a different way. It's the same way with getting no 3 times. You just have to challenge yourself. Okay, well, that was my vision. If my vision hasn't changed, but the externalities have, then I have to acknowledge the real externalities. I have to acknowledge that, okay, the world is turned upside down. Now what? Or that we're now having a national discussion about hiring or racial sensitivity or lasting bias. And does my product offend folks in ways that I would have never imagined? Is my branding, as we're seeing with some of the major brands, is my branding offensive and I got away with it for a long time without having to seriously consider it? But now, you know what?
Yes.
Maybe it is time to reconsider it. If we want a space on someone's sacred shelf in their kitchen, we need to have a brand that at minimum doesn't offend them, right? But okay, so the goal is still the same, get product on shelf. You just now have to go a very different direction and you have to think about it differently. It's still maple syrup, right? It's still maple syrup. It just doesn't say Aunt Jemima, which is great. Okay, so rename it. Think about a new creative way to tell that story. Make up a new story, fiction or nonfiction. Tell stories. Do it in a way that your customers are willing to engage with you. I mean, look, it's easy to sit here and talk about how to thrive, but it is that positive mindset. Right? You really can look at it as, man, my life is destroyed. My vision board isn't going to happen. Or you could say, look, okay,
I'm not going to fly to London. I mean, I kept thinking, I'm not flying to London. That's finished. But why was I flying to London?
Right, exactly. And why were you flying to London? You're flying to get that rush. You're flying to get that.
Yeah, that excitement, and I could get 4 or 5 clients lined up within a week. So those months where I would fly to London, I would have maybe 7 clients. 7 clients a month is perfect for me. 6, 7. So then I'm like, light bulb moment. Get those 6, 7 clients here. Do that here. Same thing.
It takes entrepreneurship is it's the most humbling thing, and it never stops being humbling. Like if you're a really good entrepreneur, no matter how successful you are, it's constantly humbling. Something's always going to challenge you. Something's always going to require you to do thinking in a new and different way. And that's why I like it. Like I joke with Amy my wife, that I'm totally unemployable at this point. Right? Because I actually like the part of entrepreneurship where
I really am completely unemployable. By the way.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we're in that together. But I'm also very lucky that I've got 30 years of wisdom that people are willing to sell, or people are willing to buy, that I could sell and people are willing to buy.
Did you start working when you were 10 or something? Why, like?
No, I mean, I'm age appropriate. I just don't have a lot of gray hair. But no, I've also been very lucky that, I've had either the personal ability to BS or the confidence that people have always been willing to let me try to work on things. Even if I wasn't guaranteed to be successful, they were willing to let me try. So at a very early age in my career, people gave me ridiculous amounts of responsibility, partly because I was willing, but partly because I was willing to accept it on myself. And I was willing to work as hard as I could to meet that level of responsibility. And partly because that's just what I needed. That was the juice. That was the adrenaline. So even at a very early age in my career, I had the chance to sit at tables with pretty big decision makers because I was playing an important role in what they were trying to accomplish. Like I was still wearing a tie until I was 30 because I was so used to being the youngest person in the room. And so the tie made me feel a little bit older. And I've never lost that feeling. I've never lost that feeling of needing to prove to a client that, hiring us as a firm is worth it and that we're delivering on that value. And when we don't deliver on that value because life happens, we take it really personally and we do everything we can to make it right. So if it means additional service, or if it means let's do another project that we can work on together, or if it means just owning up to it and saying, look, we had this idea, we executed flawlessly, and it didn't work, which meant our understanding of what the consumer wanted wasn't correct. So let's go back and look at what we think the consumer wants. And we've always been ruthlessly honest with ourselves and our clients about that. And it works.
Those are two words that you use that I like, that I've written. I write down words that I like to remind myself: radical and ruthless.
Well,
but you use them with a positive twist.
That's interesting. I never thought about that. I guess maybe it's also where you are in your life. I'm just in a place in my life where I really am trying not to focus too much on the negative. And Corona has been a huge test, obviously. And the social unrest in America has been a huge challenge. And issues on the ground here in the country where we live are a huge challenge. But I would just express that trying to focus on the opportunities in these situations as opposed to the challenges has been very helpful for me as a tool over the last 100 days. And I can't say that would be true for everybody, but for me, that's been a huge help, is to just, when I can, to focus on, what is possible as opposed to what is impossible.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that very much. Now we have reached the part of our chat where I get to ask you a couple of awkward questions.
Okay.
They're not awkward. They're just interesting. They're like Dan questions.
Sure.
What is the best thing you've ever bought? Should we have a commercial while you think about it?
No, I think, well, all right, here's what I would say. The best thing I ever bought was I participated in the purchase of my wife's Audi Q5 in America, and in the purchase of our dog, both of which she has admitted she loves more than me and my children. So making Amy, who works really hard and who is incredibly talented, she really wants nothing out of life except a dog and a car that she loves. And so to be able to sort of get her that, I would say that those are good purchases. And I would say for myself, I've spent the last 18 months working with a personal trainer who's beaten the heck out of me. And I would say that has probably been one of the best purchases. I'm sure if I thought about it more, I could think of something else. But investing in my health,
what came up.
Investing in my health and investing in my wife's happiness were both, I think, really good things to buy.
Oh, I'm remembering that we met in spinning class.
Yes, we did.
Oh, that just popped into my head. Now, wow, I've got to choose well for the next one.
I can also give fast answers if you want to try to get through them all.
Three most important qualities you think people should concentrate on in order to be a good friend.
Integrity, for sure. Honesty. They kind of go hand in hand, but I'll take them as separate ones. And then I think the third one is maybe a little bit more personal, but the third one is there's a country music song that's called "Live Like You Were Dying," and in the song, it's basically he thinks he has cancer and he reevaluates his whole life, and the line is he became the kind of friend a friend would want to have, right? So what I would say is that's the quality, is that whatever you think would make a good friend and whatever you would look for in a good friend is to be that friend. So for me, that is being, like you talked about earlier, that I said, radically generous or radically open or radically available. I would say that's probably my third one.
Be radically available.
Yeah, just be open to whatever your friend, whatever's happening or whatever's present for your friend, is to be open to that.
That's like holding space. I love that phrase.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I have plenty of friends who, like me, are at a certain age in their life and they're going through a lot of transitional stuff. And sometimes they do smart things and sometimes he or she'll do something dumb. And part of being a good friend is providing counsel when you can, but sometimes they're not asking for counsel. And so all you can do is hold space to be available and let he or she work through it.
That's beautiful, man.
Thanks, man.
We're going to end here with you. I'm going to drop your details in somewhere, but just tell us where we can find you, Dan.
Okay, so our company's website, we are Full Court Press Communications in the Bay Area. It is FCP Communications with an S, fcpcommunications.com. If you want to find me faster, I am Dan at FCP Communications, or you can pretty much always find me 24/6 hanging out on a social media tool called Twitter. And my handle on Twitter is at DC St. Paul, DCSTPAL, because I lived in Minnesota when they invented the internet. And there were 37 Dan Cohen. So
I was going to say, if you try to take Dan Cohen, it's like I used to be Sarah Levy. Like, good luck with that.
Yes, right. So yeah. DC St. Paul is how you can find me. Oh, and also LinkedIn. I think I'm dancohen.fcp on LinkedIn. I'm using that tool more and more, and using it actually a lot more like business Facebook than I ever have. So you can also find me there, and you can find our firm. I think we're at Full Court Press on Twitter, and then at Full Court Press on Insta, and you can just look up our company on. Yes, that's part of the thing of having this great graphic talent. Our visual storyteller, her name is Faye. Having her on staff has really upped our game visually. So we now have a much bigger presence in all those places.
I'm looking. Okay. Otherwise, if I don't type it in now, then. That's not you. So you would be Full Court Press. There's quite a few.
I can look it up I'll send it to you, or I can look it up while we're talking.
Send it to me.
I'll send it to you.
This one is a bunch of t-shirts and sweaters. I feel like it might not be you.
What do they say on them? Because our graphic designers just launched a whole new campaign that's helping to link Asian American out. No, that's not us. No, what I was going to say is our visual storytellers also launched a personal passion project that's connecting her Asian American community, which is very small and very based in the Bay Area, to Black Lives Matter. So she's just launched a whole line of T-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff that represent her particular community and their connection. I'm scrolling through; I'm not seeing it, so I owe you that. But it's fun to at least vamp and talk about it. Oh, it's FCP Communications, of course. It's FCP Communications on.
Or I'll type that.
That's just because we didn't get there. We didn't get there in time. You have to tell me one thing. What are three qualities you look for in a friend? Have you ever
very similar? Really similar.
Okay.
Because honesty. You had to pick one. It would be honesty.
Okay.
And the second one was integrity.
Yeah.
And the third one is empathy.
Wow. We're actually, and I think we talked about it the last time we talked, but we're actually advising a lot of our clients to truly try to speak from a place of empathy right now in their communications, corporate, social change, or otherwise. The world really needs more empathy right now, and where our clients can communicate empathetically with their audiences. All you have to do is watch Instagram or Twitter and see one outrage after another, whether it's socially motivated, politically motivated, or just someone who's mad that they have to wear a mask inside of Walmart. People are on edge, and what they really need right now are brands and people to communicate to them with empathy, to understand that these are really uncertain times. And so good communicators right now, sometimes they're made fun of online, but the good communicators are really communicating with empathy right now.
Yeah, and I think you end up with 15 emails which say, we're living in unprecedented times, or now more than ever, or everyone uses the same phrases, and we roll our eyes. But then we're like, okay, but what's the alternative if they don't speak up and they don't say that and they don't acknowledge it? So I think actually being able to come from a place of empathy that is genuine is the answer. You can't really just say, okay, this week we need to get that empathy email out. Let's just be vulnerable. Let's do. It has to be genuine. Otherwise you can just smell it a mile off, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can't be genuinely talking about climate change and selling SUVs, right? You can't be empathetic about climate change is telling us, but you can be empathetic and talking about, okay, this is now a time where maybe we should be talking about how it's safe for African American men to wear face coverings in a society in America where it's not safe for them to do that. So how are we having a conversation about public health when we have all this institutional barriers to actually people being able to participate fully in their health? So I think it's a time to really think. One second, yes. I don't know. I will email Haley in just a minute. Sorry, that was like a really real moment. I have to drive carpool in a bit. But what I would say is, crap. It was something about empathy and something about, so we always talk about communicating with our audiences with them in mind and not you in mind, right? So yeah, it's probably a bit trite to say, we live in unprecedented times, but unless you say something like that, the question is, are you going to be able to break through the noise to get at your audience and to really be heard? And I think that that's the question of the day.
Mm-hmm. Question of the day, and we shall leave it hanging.
It's so great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
I've enjoyed our coffee with my double-decker bus because of you and your people.
Ooh.
Where you're from.
My people. Oh, you're funny.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan Cohen.
Thank you. Go be awesome. You're amazing. Go do great things.
Ditto.
Okay.
I'm really good at taking compliments.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Let's go both do awesome things.